guys, welcome to Baking and Books. My name is Lexi and I'm an amateur baker who loves to read. So each week I post videos of myself attempting to bake something new while also talking about a book that I have recently read or just really love. Today is going to be our 1-year anniversary! Yay! It's not today, actually. It was sometime last week, but listen. So we all know the holidays were crazy. I prefaced that in my last couple of videos that I didn't know how much I'd be able to do over the holidays. And of course, a couple weeks went where it was just exhausting. Either I wasn't home or I was trying to recover from festivities or whatever. But I thought I'd be back at it last week, and unfortunately COVID hit our house. We're both fine, thank you. Our vaccines did their jobs and it just felt like a bad cold, which sucks, of course, but could have been a lot worse. However, it does drain all of the energy from you, way worse than probably anything I've ever felt. Even today, if you feel like my energy is low, we are out of quarantine and should be on the upward slope, but it's definitely exhausting. However, we're gonna chug along as best we can because I'm so excited to have been doing this for a whole year. Honestly, you guys that are with me this whole step of the way have been really, really incredible. And if you're new, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you have a good time. So I wanted to play off of my very first video as like a 1-year anniversary celebration. And the very first thing I ever did was chocolate chip cookies. Pretty simple, so I wasn't really sure how to amp that up, especially because I ended up buying so many chocolate chips for that particular video that I made so many different chocolate chip things in the next couple of months. However, we're gonna give something new a try. I don't know if it's really baking, but today I'm gonna attempt to make ice cream sandwiches. So I'm gonna home make my own ice cream, and then we'll bake cookies and put them together and see if we can have some yummy goodness. We're also gonna be moving on to the second book in the Series of Unfortunate Events series, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, or whatever this guy's real name is. If you missed the first book, I'll try to remember to link that below, but I would read or watch that first just so that you're not behind. I would say even the synopsis might give away some spoilers. So if you've never read this series and you're wanting to, definitely go watch that video first. There's not a lot to say on these books, but I think this is the perfect thing because there's really not a whole lot to do today. It's going to come at the assembly time to see if we can make proper ice cream with a proper cookie sandwich. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so for ice cream, you just kind of pour everything together and then cross your fingers. So that's what we're going to do, and I'm going to mix all of that up while starting with the synopsis. So remember that we left our Baudelaire kiddos after escaping the clutches of Count Olaf, and unfortunately Count Olaf got away, but that's because all of the adults in this series are incompetent. But they still feel, like they have some sort of triumph because they didn't end up having, Violet didn't end up having to marry him, and they ended up being, essentially rescued from that bad situation. So, you win some, you lose some. That's kind of the whole thing of this series. So now they are off to the house of Montgomery, who is a friend of their parents, supposedly. And they're going to call him Uncle Monty, and they're going to live with him and hopefully have a much better life than they did with Count Olaf. But of course, because Count Olaf got away, they know that he's still out there, and even though everybody's looking for him, they also know that, he's a pretty bad guy, so it may not be as easy to catch him as Mr. Poe and the rest of the authorities think that it will be. So that's where we find our Baudelaire orphans at the beginning of their journey. Now, if you have never read these books, seen the film, watched the TV show, anything pertaining to it, and you would like to, then I would highly recommend skipping forward until it says no more spoilers, because from here on out, as I finish up my ice cream and my cookies, I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper and talk about a couple of things that stood out to me. But if you already know what's going to happen or you don't care about spoilers, then you can go ahead and stay with me and we'll dive in a little deeper. I'm not really sure what the consistency is supposed to be. I'm guessing I'm just supposed to mix all it up so that the sugar is sort of mixed in with everything else. And then we just kind of gotta freeze it. So I'm gonna whisk it up a little bit here and see. I did get a fancy new mixer for Christmas, but I think I'm going to save that for my cookies and give it a try on my cookies instead of the ice cream. I do not have an ice cream maker, but I Googled different ways that you can do it without an ice cream maker, so I think we're going to be okay. I think it's interesting that a lot of times these books give away like the endings. Like very early on, it gives away that Uncle Monty is gonna die. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, of course, like they're children's stories, so maybe I shouldn't be diving in quite so deep, you know? But I think maybe because they are children's stories, sometimes Lemony Snicket feels like, okay, if I let the kids know ahead of time, like, hey, this is gonna happen, and it might be sad, then you're less shocked and sad when you get there. I don't know. That's the only thing that I can really think of. But I do think it's interesting, and it's not the only book that does it. I mean, there's quite a bit given away throughout the series of different things, and I just think it's very interesting that it does that. All right, well, this is where we got. Okay, so now I'm gonna pour this in here. It is 100% all liquid. Should I taste this? I mean, it tastes really good. Okay, so now this has to go in the freezer, and basically what I'm gonna do over the next couple of hours, you won't see it, that would be super boring, but over the next 3 to 4 hours, I'm gonna take it out every like 90 minutes or so, and just sort of like mix it up, and then put it back in the freezer. So, fingers crossed, this gets us what we want. Okay, so now it is time to start our cookies. See, look at my fancy machine. Except that the way that the plug works is that everything is on this side, and so that ought to be interesting, but you know what? We'll worry about that when we get there. You know, the thing that really upsets me about this book in particular in the series is that it just sort of seems like Dr. Monty, Uncle Monty, is going to be this like really good adult father figure type of person, and that, you know, he's gonna be the guardian that they need and all of that, and then he still doesn't listen to them. Like, he's making this really good life for them, and that's great, and like he's really good to the kids, but he doesn't listen to them when they're trying to tell him about Count Olaf. He literally is like, no, that couldn't possibly be right, because I know best, and I know that it's really this person instead. And it's just sort of like, why are you so good to them? You know, you do all these great things for them, but then you're not willing to listen to them when they're trying to tell you something important. Like, you just think you know better. Especially after you've heard the stories of Count Olaf. You would think that he would be more likely, at least, to just be like, oh, you know, you could be right. And maybe this guy is, you know, untrustworthy. Maybe he is Count Olaf. Because he knows he's untrustworthy, so, like, why doesn't he believe that he could be Count Olaf? Let's try this. I feel like I should still soften my butter a little bit. And I know that people don't, but I also didn't put this out for, like, room temperature for a while. So I feel like maybe I should soften it a little still. Okay. We're gonna try that. Alright, let's keep going, see what happens. Okay, I realized that I have this lid thing on this, which, like, is kind of a pain. I didn't think it would obstruct me, and now I'm realizing. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, sorry if this sounds weird. This is obviously the first time I'm using this, so I'm going to try to speak up a little bit, because I feel like it's a little bit loud from where I'm standing, but hopefully you can hear me okay. The thing that really gets me about Mr. Poe is that it's like, I get that these kids have just come off of a really traumatic experience. And so, like, I understand that maybe your first instinct would not necessarily be to believe every word they say, but I still feel like, you know, they're not, like, tiny. I mean, obviously Sunny is little, but Klaus and Violet are, like, 12, 14 years old, so, like, they're not children. They're preteen teenagers, and they're not stupid. This is going medium well. I feel like this all just got stuck to this, instead of, like, actually mixing together. Alright, let's try this now. But I definitely feel like the fact that the adults just never listen to the kids is probably one of the most frustrating things ever. Okay, well, glad you all get to be here for me with this experiment that I'm having here. It's just that, like, chunks of stuff get caught up in here, and then they don't actually mix. I actually feel like this might have been better if I'd have just melted my butter like I usually do and done it that way, because I feel like these chunks of butter are what's getting, like, stuck in. Okay, I'm going to do this by hand for a little bit. Try to get it a little more, because I feel like once there aren't big chunks of butter to get caught in the mixer, then I feel like it'll be a lot easier for this to just become, like, smooth, which is what we're going for. And I'm going to take this off, because it'll be so much easier. Yeah, I definitely feel like I have done something wrong here. Maybe I'm just using, like, maybe this isn't the right, like, utensil that I should be using. But I really don't have a whole lot of them. I mean, if that makes sense. Like, I only have a couple, and this one looked like it made the most sense. But maybe it doesn't. Okay, well, we tried. So we're just gonna mix this puppy up by hand. Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, I'll say a lot of crappy things about Mr. Poe as we get on with it, but just the fact that he doesn't listen, and, I mean, he's not the only adult, but still, just, like, the fact that nobody ever listens is just, like, stupid, honestly. Just makes me so mad. My mix is really dry today. I don't know what that is. The last thing I will say is that I don't know why the kids didn't recognize that the doctor was not a doctor, and that he was a Count Olaf accomplice. Like, I feel like the kids are so quick to recognize everything around them, but they don't recognize that this doctor is for sure, like, not a real doctor. Just seems odd. Okay, well, the dough's a little crumbly, but I think it'll work. So by the time these go in the oven and come out and cool, our ice cream should be done. We can start stacking stuff together. Okay, if you left because of spoilers, go ahead and come back and join us. I think we're just about ready. I had a batch of cookies go in the oven and come out. They're in the process of cooling. I don't want them to cool too much just because I feel like that's going to be really good, like warm, gooey cookie with the ice cream. But I am trying to let them cool at least some. And I think our ice cream should be ready to go. So, like, fingers crossed, let's pull it out and see if we can make an ice cream sandwich. I'm going to mix it up here. It does look like ice cream. I will give it that. I'll show you in a minute. So I think I might have done okay. I don't know how well you can really see it. It kind of looks like mashed potatoes on the video, I think. But it looks more like ice cream in real life, I promise. All right, we're gonna take a small taste here. It tastes good. It's very vanilla-y, that's for sure. It is definitely vanilla ice cream. Okay, I think I'll choose this for my bottom. The perfect use for the ice cream scoop. How much do we want on here? I feel like, you know, it's whatever you want. I'm gonna put 2 scoops. I feel like that's a pretty decent start. And then this is a cute top, so we'll go with this. Okay, we're gonna mash it down. Okay, here we go. You can see it. Ice cream sandwich. You probably could go 3 scoops or more if you wanted to. I would say that was a success. I think you might need more than 2 scoops. I'm not really that worried about it for myself personally, but making them for other people, I think 3 or 4 scoops is probably where you want, so you get the ample amount of ice cream. Honestly, I would say this was a success. It was something different. I know ice cream isn't really baking necessarily, but it is putting different ingredients together and trying to make it work. So I would say it was a good year anniversary video. And of course, my chocolate chip cookies can always use a little bit of tweaking because, like, these ones spent a little bit longer in the oven than I would normally like, but, you know, that's life. Always progressing, always working on things. I would recommend this book. I would recommend this series. If you haven't started this series, then this is your sign to do so. I mean, they are kids' books. I don't know what, like, the recommended reading age for these books are. I know they get bigger and more in-depth the longer the series goes. I think there's 13 books, so we've got a long way to go. But I don't know, like, what the recommended age is. You can share with me when you read them. I read them late, if you remember me talking about that in the bad beginning. I didn't read them until I was, like, past the age where most people had. I guess I just never heard of them, and then when the Jim Carrey movie came out, like a lot of people, then I was like, oh, I should read those books. So I was a little behind the game, but let me know, like, when you started reading these. But either way, I mean, even if you're reading them as a teenager or an adult, you know, they're fun. You know, just they're kind of different than other books because they are so dark compared to a lot of other things. Like, they're the right amount of dark so that you don't feel like you're in Stephen King's world. Not at all, but that you still feel like it's not just a regular children's story. So this is your sign to start this series. Start with the bad beginning and then work your way up to this one. Thank you guys again, for those of you that have been with me this whole year. You guys are amazing, and I promise I see your likes and I appreciate your comments, and I really just appreciate the support, knowing that you guys are there every week and that you watch. If you're newer, you haven't been with me the whole year, I still really appreciate you. And if you're brand new and you had fun today, please like and subscribe. I try to be here for you every week. It's a little bit of fun and a little bit of hot mess, so hopefully it's something that you would enjoy. If you have other recipes that you want me to try or books that you want me to read, you can definitely send those my way. I've got some really exciting stuff book-wise coming up, and I really look forward to getting into that with you guys. But thank you so much for spending your time with me today, and I will see you next time.